Everyone searches for peace and harmony because this is what we lack in life. Sometimes we feel restless, frustrated, and restless. And when we are tormented by these sufferings, we do not keep them to ourselves but often dump them on others. Sadness infects the air around those who are suffering. Anyone who comes into contact with these people is affected. Surely this is not a wise way to live. We should live in peace with ourselves, and in peace with others. In short, humans are creatures that live in groups, form societies, and must communicate with each other. But how can we live peacefully? How can we maintain inner harmony, maintain peace and harmony around us so that others can also live in peace and harmony? To escape suffering, we must know the basic cause, the origin of suffering. If we investigate this matter, it becomes clear that, whenever there are afflictions and impurities in our mind, we become unhappy. Afflictions in the mind, an evil, mental impurity cannot exist together with peace and harmony. How do we start creating afflictions? Once again, if we learn, we will see clearly. We become unhappy when we see someone behaving in a way we don't like, or we see things happen that we don't want. Unpleasant things happen and we create tension in our minds. We don't get what we want because of some obstacle and we become stressed, creating knots. And throughout life, the things we want may or may not be achieved. The ways of reacting by creating knots make the entire mind and body tense, full of troubles, making life difficult. Should suffer. Now, one way to solve this problem is to make arrangements, so that nothing unpleasant happens in life, so that everything happens according to your wishes. One is that we must have some power or someone who gives us this power, so that unwanted things do not happen and everything we want can be achieved. But this can never be. No one in this world can achieve all their wishes. Everything happens according to their wishes without anything unexpected happening. Things continue to happen contrary to wishes and wishes. Therefore, the question is, how do we stop reacting blindly when we encounter dissatisfaction? How do we stop creating stress and maintain peace and harmony? In India as well as in other countries, saints in the past studied this problem, the problem of human suffering, to find a solution. If something unpleasant happens and we react with anger, fear, or other impurities, we immediately shift our attention to something else. For example, stand up and get a glass of water to drink, your anger will subside. Or we start counting 1, 2, 3, 4. Or start repeating a sentence, or a mantra, or the name of a deity that we worship, our mind will change direction and we will be somewhat less troubled, will calm down our anger. This solution is useful and always effective. If we solve it this way, our mind will be less restless. However, this solution is only effective at the cognitive level. In fact, by shifting our attention, we push the afflictions deep into the unconscious, and we still multiply those afflictions. On the surface, there seems to be peace and harmony, but deep down inside there is still a dormant, suppressed volcano that will explode violently without knowing when. There are others who have studied the truth about the inner mind and have gone deeper. And by directly experiencing the truth about mind and body, within themselves, realize that shifting attention is just avoiding problem. Avoidance doesn't solve anything. You must look straight at the problem. Whenever trouble arises in your mind, just observe it, face it. As soon as you start observing, the afflictions will decrease in intensity and gradually disappear. This solution is very good because it avoids extremes, neither repression nor indulgence. Burying the affliction deep in the unconscious will not eliminate it, and letting it fester through unwholesome actions or words will only create more trouble. But if you just observe, the affliction will go away, and you will eliminate it. This sounds great, but is it actually possible? Dealing with one's own badness is not easy. When anger arises, we are immediately overpowered, making us unrecognizable. Then, blinded by anger, we commit actions and words that harm ourselves and others. Then, when we have calmed down, we cry, regret, and ask for forgiveness from this person, that person, or the gods. Oh, I made a mistake, please forgive me. But then the next time, we fall into the same situation and behave the same way. Apologizing like this doesn't do any good. The difficulty is that we do not know when afflictions begin. It starts in the unconscious, and when it reaches the conscious level, it has enough power to overpower us, making it impossible for us to observe it. Suppose I hire a personal secretary, so that when anger arises, the secretary tells me, "Look, anger has begun." Because I don't know when anger will occur, I have to hire enough secretaries for 3 shifts. If I have the ability to write a letter like that, and when anger arises, the secretary immediately tells me, "Look, anger has begun." The first thing I did was scold the secretary. "You idiot, do you think I'm paying you to teach me?" I was dominated by anger. So advice was of no help. Suppose I still have enough sense and don't scold the secretary. On the contrary, I said, "Thank you very much. Now I have to sit down to observe my anger." As soon as I closed my eyes to observe, the cause of the anger appeared in my mind, the person or event that caused this anger. But at that time I did not observe anger, but only observed the cause of anger. This only makes anger increase and does not solve anything. It is difficult to observe afflictions or abstract emotions and isolate the external causes that cause them. However, an enlightened person found a practical solution. He discovers that when there is affliction in the mind, physiologically 2 things happen at the same time. One is the breathing loses its normal rhythm. We begin to breathe harder when afflictions come to mind. At a more sophisticated level, biochemical reactions begin to create sensations. Every affliction creates one feeling or another in the body. This leads to a practical solution. An ordinary person cannot observe abstract afflictions in the mind such as fear, anger, and delusion. But with proper guidance and practice, it is very easy to observe respiration and sensation, which are directly related to the afflictions in the mind. Respiration and sensation will help us in 2 ways. First, it is like a personal secretary. As soon as afflictions arise in the mind, breathing will lose normality. It will alarm, "Look, something is wrong." Since we cannot scold the breath, we must accept its warning. Likewise, feelings will tell us what's wrong. When we are alert, we can begin to observe our breathing, we can begin to observe our sensations, and very quickly we see the affliction disappear. This phenomenon is like 2 sides of a coin. One is the thoughts and emotions appearing in the mind. The other is the breath and sensations in the body. Any idea, any emotion, any affliction in the mind is expressed by the breath and feeling at that moment. Therefore, by observing respiration or sensation, we are actually observing the defilements in the mind. Instead of avoiding the problem, we must face the existing reality. As a result, we see that afflictions lose their power, they can no longer suppress us like in the past. If we persevere, they will completely disappear and we will begin to live a peaceful life, a life with less and less bad things. In this way, the self-observation method shows us reality in 2 states, internal and external. Previously, we only looked outside and forgot the truth inside. We always look beyond ourselves for the cause of our misfortunes. We always blame and try to change the external truth. Ignorant of the truth within, we never understand that the source of suffering lies within us, within our blind reactions to pleasant or unpleasant sensations. Now, with practice, we can see the other side of the coin. We can be conscious of our breathing as well as what is happening inside our body. Whether it's our breath or our sensations, we know how to just observe without losing our composure. We stop reacting, we stop increasing our suffering. On the contrary, they allow afflictions to manifest and then disappear. The more you practice this method, the more quickly your afflictions disappear. Gradually, our mind is freed from impurities and becomes pure. A pure mind is always full of love, unselfish towards everyone, full of compassion for the suffering and failures of others, full of joy for the success and happiness of others, full of stay calm in all situations. When we reach this level, all habits in our life will change. It is impossible to have words or actions that disrupt the peace and happiness of others. On the contrary, a balanced mind not only becomes peaceful but the surrounding atmosphere is also filled with peace and harmony. This will begin to influence others, helping them too, by remaining calm with all emotions within ourselves, we find a way to separate what we encounter outside of ourselves. However, escapism is not a way to avoid or be indifferent to life's difficulties. People who practice vipassana meditation often become sensitive to the sufferings of others, and do their best to alleviate these sufferings, not out of necessity, but out of compassion and equanimity. They know how to have holy detachment. Learn how to participate wholeheartedly, enthusiastically in helping others, at the same time maintaining equanimity. In this way, they maintain peace and happiness, and at the same time create peace and happiness for others. This is what the Buddha taught, an art of living. He did not teach them dogmas or empty ritual forms. He only taught them to observe existing nature by observing their inner state. Because of ignorance, we keep behaving in ways that are harmful to ourselves and others. But when there is wisdom, the wisdom of observing reality as it really is, this habit of reacting disappears. When we stop reacting blindly, we are capable of acting impartially with equanimity. A mind that sees and understands the truth. Such behavior can only be positive and creative, beneficial for oneself and others, so what is needed is, know yourself, the advice of all saints. We must understand ourselves not just by books, not by theories, not just by emotions, or beliefs, just blindly accepting what we hear and learn. Such understanding is not enough. Better yet, we must understand the reality of this phenomenon of mind and body. This alone will liberate us from suffering. The direct experience of one's own mind. This method of self-observation is called vipassana meditation. In Indian language, at the time of Buddha, pasana meant seeing normally with eyes wide open. But vipassana is to observe reality as it really is, not as it seems to be. The obvious truth must be penetrated, until we reach the ultimate truth of the entire physical and psychological structure. Once we have experienced this truth, we will know how to stop reacting blindly, stop creating new afflictions, and the old afflictions will slowly disappear naturally. We will end suffering and enjoy true happiness. In a meditation course, the practice consists of 3 parts. First, we must avoid verbal or physical actions that disturb the peace and harmony of others. We cannot practice for liberation from impurities while engaging in actions and words that increase these impurities. Therefore, precepts are essential in the first step of practice. We practice not killing, not stealing, not committing adultery, not lying, and not using poison. By avoiding these actions, we calm the mind enough to go further. The next part is to practice mastering the restless mind by focusing on one object, the breath. We try to keep our attention on breathing for as long as possible. This is not a breathing practice, we do not control the breathing. On the contrary, we observe normal respiration, sometimes in and out. In this way, we make the mind quiet, so that it is not dominated by afflictions. At the same time, we can concentrate the mind and make it sharp and profound enough to lead to insight. These first 2 parts, living ethically and controlling the mind, are very necessary, but they only lead to the repression of afflictions. If we do not practice the third part, which is to purify the mind of all afflictions by develop insight into yourself. This is vipassana, experiencing the truth about ourselves by observing within ourselves impartially and methodically the constantly changing phenomena of body and mind expressed through sensations. This is a summary of the Buddha's teachings, self-purification of the mind through self-observation. Everyone can practice. Everyone has to deal with suffering. This is a common human disease and requires a general cure, not just for one person. When we suffer from anger, it is not Buddhist anger, or Hindu anger, or Christian anger. Anger is anger. When we are disturbed by anger, this agitation is not unique to Christians, or Jews, or Muslims. This disease is a common disease of humanity. Medicine must be able to cure everyone. Vipassana is this medicine. No one objects to a lifestyle that respects the peace and harmony of others. No one objects to mastering one's mind. No one objects to developing wisdom in oneself, to be able to free one's mind from afflictions. Vipassana is the path common to everyone, observing reality by observing inner truth. This is knowing oneself directly and through experience. The more we practice, the more we can escape suffering due to mental afflictions. From an elementary, peripheral, false truth, we penetrate to the ultimate truth about mind and body. When we pass this stage, we experience the truth beyond mind and body, beyond time and space, beyond the relative environment, the truth of complete liberation from afflictions, impurities and suffering. Whatever name we give to this ultimate truth does not matter, that is the ultimate goal of man. I hope you can experience this ultimate truth. Wishing everyone to be freed from suffering. May everyone enjoy true peace, true harmony, true happiness.
Thank you for spending your valuable time on my channel Journey to Enlightenment. Wishing you a very peaceful and happy day. Don't forget to click like and subscribe to my support channel. See you in the next video.